Difficult people. Dealing with negativity and annoying people at work, at home, and in relationships. Written by Mandy Humack. Narrated by Denise L. Fountain. I think you will concur there are enough people surrounding you who make your existence miserable every once in a while. They might even go as far as to dominate or control you in certain ways. While you interact daily with your peers, both at home and away from home, you're constantly deciding regarding how to act correctly toward them. These minute decisions are now being produced by almost everyone. We shouldn't screw up with difficult people, and thus we are always cautious about our actions. Difficult people lurk everywhere. They aren't always really crooks, however, they give others a pain in the neck. Those are the ones whom we may associate with the term difficult people, and the majority of us cope with them every day, not understanding who they really are, why they're so, and how to approach them. Solutions to these questions equip us in working with them as well as in helping them. You selected this book because you don't want to be one of those really difficult people, and you need to enable them to in some manner. If we do it right, we are able to begin to spread the spirit of joy around us, which help get this world to become a much better place, even just in a limited sense of the word. Conflicts and wars throughout history, big dramas and domestic issues, whether big or small scale, local or global, were related to difficult individuals who crossed boundaries and affected the remainder of humanity. This is why the nuclear explosive device in Hiroshima, the genocide in Europe, and in the Second World War, the Holocaust, as well as the fall in the Garden of Eden happened. This book provides you with the required methods that will help you deal with difficult people effectively. Chapter 1. What it really means to be difficult. They may be either your manager, college professor, business partner, landlord, or perhaps your personal spouse, kids, brothers and sisters, or parents. Anybody could be a difficult person to another person. You might not be honest about it, but at some point all people have been difficult individuals to others. You never know, you might be seeking an answer for solving the problems of difficult individuals while you are one of the most difficult people out there, and you may not realize it at all. It's essential to find out if you're in a situation having a difficult person or if you yourself are starting to become one. The first thing you need to do is fix any difficulty by recognizing the issue. There is a story behind a person who held on firmly to some stem within the dead of the night, deep within the forest, thinking he was hanging on a high cliff. Once the sun was up, he found the fall down below him would be a mere feet from his foot. If he would have realized this, he wouldn't have experienced the difficulty of dangling there through the night. On most occasions, difficult people don't realize they're being difficult. They normally don't see that they're draining everyone's energy very quickly. They believe their attitude is simply normal. Likewise, a few of their victims might not see that they're coping with difficult people. The sooner the issue is detected, the smoother the sailing is going to be. Smooth sailing, but you're still at the ocean. It's vital that only at this early point we understand the truth. We need to stay away from difficult people, but that doesn't solve the issue under consideration. As earlier pointed out, this type of person can be everywhere. There's no privacy that can't invade. You may as well leave the earth and choose another planet to eliminate them completely from your life. However, that is only going to mean you're likely to begin a new race of difficult people there if you procreate with your lovely partner. If you are comfortable at the ocean, you need to get accustomed to smooth swings. The bottom line is not to avoid it, but to understand to sail easily through the years. Likewise is learning how to approach the hard person who provides you with touring among bad weather. When you master this, difficult individuals will start liking you, and then your new problem is going to be how to not be loved too much by difficult people. It can feel unfulfilling to tame a difficult individual. Why are difficult people so difficult? So why is a difficult person difficult in the first place? Everybody out there is fighting a war in life of some type, even those who have the biggest smiles on their faces and seem to mean it. The battles might be tough or easy, and individuals take this stuff based on their level of tolerance or a lot. Some have a superior lot and just like take life's battles in stride, comfortably agreeing to them because they come. Some, however, have a low lot and neglect to retain the pressure that life's challenges present. Pressure spills in wherever activities they participate in affects whoever they make contact with. Chapter 2: How Difficult People React Under Pressure. When pressures in our lives begin to become difficult to control or take into your own hands, a difficult person is born. Infants look adorable even if linked with emotions or if they fool around with things. However, when they develop themselves, it's a different matter altogether. Exactly the same factor is true for difficult people. They begin by being funny, even witty, but many of them become monsters at some other point in their lives, sometimes in one day. Everyday pressures are typical. All of us encounter them in specific measures, and the levels vary every day. They assist us in maturing gracefully, if handled well. However, the moment it controls us, we have a tendency to pass pressure onto others so we can be annoying or irritating to them, to put it that way. When you came into this world as a lovely baby, the womb was pressured in the most possible way, and your mom needed to hurry toward the delivery room. Once the pressure was an excessive amount, a significant operation was necessary. Whenever you were transferred from the womb into our planet, you've been fighting through a number of pressures: pressure to consume, to rest, to prevent yourself from crying, to lie down on your belly, to sit down, to crawl, to face up, and lastly just to walk. Your folks needed to pressure you to definitely do all this stuff as part of becoming an adult. Then there's pressure to consume nutritious food such as fruits and vegetables. As you kept growing up and develop your abilities, you kept being pressured to speak and pronounce words and sounds correctly. After that, you were put into school. There, the teacher introduced new pressures to you that would help you find out more and become smarter in every sense of the word. The greater the schooling, the more powerful the pressures increased. Exams, projects, recitations, tests, and so on were being brought to you. You have been shaped and become tough because of these pressures. These pressures are needed in life. They are all okay. They are made to help us develop the very best in us, but in some way, when removed from context or perhaps in the incorrect perspective, they become negative pressure that, rather of helping us, they enhance the worst qualities and weaknesses in us. Pressures need to be faced in a mature way. What this means is the soul, mind, feelings, and will is nurtured when pressures are dealt with. However, when the ego bottles up all the damage inside, that's when a person becomes difficult, because problems aren't being dealt with in a proper manner. Kinds of pressures. Generally, the pressure of life are to blame for people to get annoying attitudes. Other ways they can become difficult are: number one, pressure from peers. When being difficult turns into a trend, glorified in movies as well as on TV, and your peers were okay with it, it becomes too flexible. Number 2, sickness pressure, which is a result of a small illness. Number 3, disciplinary pressure, when getting a hard attitude is assumed to check the loyalty and perseverance of subordinates, as well with office and fraternities, as well as in the military. Some people get so oppressed that as soon as they get the chance, they'll take control and start oppressing others. Several psychological experiments have pointed this out. These pressures are frequently momentary and feigned. Disciplinary pressures rarely lead to a poor attitude since it is accustomed to mold or partially define a person's character. Pressures introduced about by everyday existence and which become ingrained may be the focus of this book. These pressures may shock a person and go into the system because it hits bottom, it starts to increase and gather steam. Eventually, it's contained no more, it erupts right into a damaging attitude. Overt pressures. Some pressure are apparent. They attack from far away. Stacked up work at your job, a really demanding boss, deadlines to meet, school or board exams, along with a nagging wife are types of the mentioned pressures. They're frequently temporary and manageable, cut by quiet periods when the reason for pressure is allayed. However, they sometimes show up in slightly increased levels. You will find that some difficult people can also be a direct result of another party being too hard on them. It's just like a vicious cycle. Generally, it's due to attitude transfer. Wrong attitudes could be imparted in some ways. Overt pressures are mainly skin deep and may rarely modify the total person for lengthy periods. What is also interesting is that it's rarely permanent. Bad attitude out of this pressure eats the periodic onslaughts of minute-to-minute pressure, and without such feeding, an unhealthy attitude subsides. But when overlooked, such bad attitudes may worsen as the number of pressures in calm periods get out of hand. In such situations, unhealthy attitude recovers rapidly in the more calm periods, since the latter is cut short with a new overt pressure that exists. For example, students are pressured by financial difficulties and also by submission of the school project that is due soon. A student is annoyed by financial distresses and insufficient time. Such double or perhaps multiple pressures produce low lot. He begins to be pricky and act out on his fellow students. After hurrying to complete the work the evening prior to the deadline, the professor announces a lengthy surprise quiz. The very first pressures have been passed by when the second is new and has come into the student's life. The quiet period is extremely cut short, departing the battered feelings unrelieved, and also the temperament even more inflamed. All drops to the point lowest again. When one is harassed by overt pressure, and he has got the will to initially overcome it, he is commonly mildly difficultly initially. Lot lowers a little bit. If signs and symptoms persist and complications are added, he goes midway to being extreme. It might be very hard to stop once the pressure begins to really develop. The lot drops again as a result of the increased pressure. Once the pressure boosts, the lot decrease and vice versa. If a man is in charge of his lot and has the capacity to even boost it, he mastered the skill of self-control and turns out to be a powerful, patient person whom all of us admire. Most pressures are unmanageable, but our amounts of tolerance are when we master them. And when we all do, we could help difficult people. This is one of the ways we can interact with them. Therefore, the game is actually about lot mastering, and winning the sport means maintaining your lot up high. A higher lot is one method of figuring out that you're not a hard person. Along with a high lot, there is really a sure tactic for handling difficult people. Look at this situation. Whenever a demanding boss or teacher, most likely a hard guy himself, is pacified, or perhaps a deadline is met, or perhaps an exam is passed, or perhaps a nagging, difficult wife is momentarily soothed, then things usually tend to calm down, and also the difficult person relaxes and exhibits tolerable manners. And frequently the convenience period that occur between pressures are relief and well taken by him to ensure that he might be oddly benevolent to individuals around him. You might even get to see him being a nice, or even go to people he detests. He might buy everyone a totally free lunch, but never be fooled by such deceiving behavior. Such transitions are momentary. If you're caught with this particular person, brace up for an additional round of challenges soon. Overt pressures are often simple to avoid. Difficult individuals who meet such pressures usually turn to other pursuits to divert attention and become temporarily relieved in the pressures that beset them. They might keep themselves occupied with a few charitable works, games, leisures, or hobbies. They might find a new school course or socialize and hold positions in clubs. Initially, this appears to be a great way of channeling energy with other positive activities, but this can be a mere escape route that may change or solve nothing except give some sort of short relief. You will find crucial factors affecting overt pressures. They can be 1. Escapism. This is what Karl Marx talked about. Something that diverts attention in the real cause of the issue is an opiate of those people. Escapism isn't just an opiate. It drowns its victims inside a whirlpool of untruths and lies, which later transforms and becomes a real inside a victim's eyes. Many difficult people worsen once they turn to mere escapism to defend against pressures without confronting and solving the problems in their situation. The short-lived relief lessens in effectiveness, otherwise does. Greater doses of relief are needed to make the stronger anti-pressure. In the same manner that antibiotics become ineffective when overused by an individual. Thus, the thing is that some people, difficult people, become harder to impress. When difficult people turn to getting away or escaping from their hardships, they're getting caught up in their very own web of lies. What's even more awful is that they impose such imaginations on others to ensure that significant relations are just possible when others adapt to everything about these difficult people. Number 2, crossing over. There are several overt pressures, if considered as positive, which can really function as stepping stones to assist difficult people to overcome their opposing attitudes. They are known as walking gemstones simply because they can gradually change a difficult person from being hard to deal with to being bearable or thoughtful. Is like crossing over using their false world towards the real life. Number 3, pressure reversal. Whenever you fight your negative habits, you turn back pressure effects and are becoming someone different if done steadily. This requires lots of self-discipline, patience, or abstinence. It really works in a similar way to reverse psychologically. Child psychologists state that rather of creating a young child that will obey you, you are able to speak with them in types of situations. 3. Pressure reversal. Whenever you fight your negative habits, you turn back pressure effects and are becoming someone different if done steadily. This requires lots of self-discipline, patience, or abstinence. It really works in a similar way to reverse psychology. Child psychologists state that rather of creating a young child that will obey you, you are able to speak with them in types of suggestions which make sense for them according to their interests. For example, letting them know that they need to be running coal could make them trip and hurt themselves. Instead of when you plainly order them to stop running, their main interest is to avoid getting hurt. That's the most important thing to them. They don't care about much else at that moment. In pressure reversal, you convince yourself actually to ultimately always react positively, particularly in hostile situations. What your interest here? It is not to be like the difficult person you are coping with. You shouldn't become an unreasonably demanding boss at some point, which means you assume precisely the opposite attitude your difficult boss is demonstrating. It requires an apple tree to create an apple. If you prefer a blueberry, then don't plant an apple tree. Tell yourself that's the point in passing the board exams and getting a diploma, or those who have gotten rotten character and become notorious for this. While you take pressure from reviewing for the exam or during exam day itself and find out you're bent on being touchy, persuade yourself to not surrender. Fight back and keep your ultimate goal in mind to help become agreeable, different than those kind of people. Covert pressures. Pressures which are embedded attack from inside. Those are the more subtle pressures which make for any harder and frequently defiant or resistant character. Difficult people born from covert pressures appear to disagree with everyone and everything. They always think there is something wrong about whatever they encounter. They appear to hate the planet they live on. They rarely find rest from their pressures, since the pressures are deep within. It's been included in their system. Unlike difficult individuals with overt pressures who can still enjoy intermediate though temporary cessation of pressures, victims of covert pressures typically find life to be difficult at all times. They stay hurt and angry and therefore are quick to react negatively to a lot of situations. Covert pressures are frequently things from a person's past life that they stem from being damaged in their childhood, like abusive or harmful words from parents, scenes of violence, fierce brother or sister competition, discrimination, and chronic financial difficulties. Some might be incurred in puberty or perhaps their adult years. Covert pressures either push individuals to compete for recognition in order to withdraw by blaming others. These folks attempt to live in a utopian dream world in which things are perfect or flawless because of their designs and doings. They see themselves as heroes who are always be aware of the right thing you can do. They dictate their ways and opinions on others while fully convinced they're here on the pursuit to correct others. In a way, they have a lot in common with those in the narcissistic spectrum. People respond to covert pressures in two different ways. They either, one, compete for recognition. Covert pressures may goad individuals to compete for credit, aching to become praised as a highly motivational pressure which has either made or damaged lives through history. A real example is a boy who, because of poverty, endured discrimination and banishment. His relatives made him believe he'd never be accomplished anything because he grew up too rapidly by being forced to do so. The boy vowed to compete and to do something to prove his accusers wrong. He later grew to become a self-made man or even a successful millionaire. Throughout the years, he grew to become successful in his career, but hurt feelings have been embedded within his ego. Now life to him is a big competition. He constantly strives to show that he is always right and insists that others are wrong. Obviously, he doesn't announce this like a doctrine, but without having to be aware, it might be the building blocks of what he is doing. It might be the engine that runs his existence, the inspiring drive that provides him gusto. So he goes about his daily schedule correcting everyone, giving his unrequested advice, and ensuring everybody learns from him in the end. He's a self-made millionaire, and individuals must study his example, and therefore the tough existence begins for individuals close to him and around him. Obviously, any man under covert pressure can choose to react differently and use little pressure reversal. He might still try everything to win in everything he does, but he must also consider individuals who aren't as effective and individuals who don't want to be effective. Sometimes a narcissistic ego can be a determining factor to look down on others, but if a person gets a sense of reason, or she or he can acknowledge that other less competitive or obsessive individuals are adding to society in valuable ways too. Number 2, withdraw by blaming others. Covert pressures may also send individuals to the depths of misery and create an image in them of being in a helpless condition. They hate others for this. They might choose to appear defeated too, and could just show how much a loser they are by refusing to take part in anything useful. The self-pity can grow over time, yet they maintain that they're mere victims of conditions out of control for which others are responsible for in their eyes. It's frequently a life of endless trying to find good reason to despair even more. These difficult people only experience failure and disaster and urge you to view things likewise. Yet they may also choose to appear normal like everyone and may believe you undertake useful things. However, they lead a life of continuously blaming others for everything wrong and claiming authorship for everything right. Frequently, these folks will offer you little help or suggestion or nothing, unlike individuals who go for competition or recognition. These pathetic people are only going to blame circumstances and put other people down whenever they can. They like to see failure happening as much as possible around them. They would like to prove that everyone is as stupid as they are, or worse. Covert pressure takes control of the victims' lives. They damage the emotional basics of individuals. When overlooked, they're going much deeper and boost their egos. The ego or inner person may be the one within that controls and operates the individual and his or her behavior. The visible person on the outside is really a mere puppet of the individual inside. Overt and covert pressures merge. The worst case scenarios are when both overt and covert pressures attack those difficult people. Think of a guy acquiring a substantial latent pressure embedded within the heart, which grows as time elapses. Adding the outside pressure that worsens pressure inside, and hot steam begins to spill from breaks inside the walls. When the whole factor finally gives way, there is a volcanic eruption that is out of control. There are people like that out there. Chapter 3, A Change of Attitude. To help comprehend the mechanics to be a difficult person, it's important to understand that some attitudes might be transferred, and then any such transfer may lead to a worse or better attitude. It's a law of nature. Good cells always produce better, healthier cells. Bad cells produce worse cells, and worse cells produce dead cells at some later point in time. A fruitful tree produces good fruits, but a bad one, bad fruit. It's simple, it makes sense. Even in the Bible, in the New Testament, the religious example, Jesus of Nazareth, emphasizes this law. Let's conclude this, however, that by applying reversal pressure, the vicious cycle could be broken up and may do the complete opposite. A great attitude can stem from the bad attitude, and then the bear simply decides to become different than before and actively tries to improve. A poor tree might be given reversal treatments like grafting and spraying to really make it bear good fruits. A difficult individual is difficult most likely because he first got affected by someone close to him. A harsh father may unintentionally transfer his personality to some child who either idolizes or loathes him. A teacher may transfer his attitude to students. You might start copying the attitudes and behaviors of your friends. That's what people do. They are little copycats. They follow examples. Hero worship transfer. Whenever an effective individual with worldly success is a difficult person, individuals who worship him in odd sense of the world and follow by copying his behavior might also grow up to become difficult individuals too. They notice an element in their success and then they begin dealing with or interacting with these people. People always attribute their success partially to management techniques and also to others. Management skills is designed to speak to and treat people in a particular way. Putting pressure on people makes them just work harder. Likewise, an individual who becomes the victim of a tragedy may seem successful to other people like a hero, while in the meantime he persifies the main reasons they are battling in the first place. For instance, a janitor, while attempting to save his boss, dies inside a fire. He might be idolized by his sons, who also become janitors faithful to their bosses. It's good to emulate great heroes, but difficult people can be seen as heroes by others, and therefore people imitate their attitude. One example is a person I used to follow online. He came across as dictatorial and authoritative, which was exactly the image he was going for. Others thought he knew everything. He kept saying, "Do not deviate from what I teach." But in my personal business, I discovered he was wrong about a lot of things, and when I questioned his judgment, he completely turned against me. Needless to say, I was frustrated and angry at this person, but I was glad I didn't have to be around him anymore because his narcissistic personality was anything but safe. Loathe transfer. World history is full of examples of individuals who overthrew dictators simply to become even worse dictators at some point in their lives. There are two causes for this change in this attitude. One is vengeance. Many people who endure difficult people have a tendency to repeat something to their subordinates or to other generations. The lack of the item of revenge says when the person to whom revenge is meant has already died, or once the avenger is powerless to complete retribution, he often subdues individuals under him who sees to be more powerless than him. Individuals under him become substitutes for that real object of retribution. Hence, the kid who is affected by this difficult father may release his frustration and take it out on his more youthful brother, and also the more youthful brother usually takes it out on his dog. Number 2, keeping power. A sales director who hates his own difficult sales director above him, anxiously hogging power, might at some point become a controlling director too. He starts to love the positioning a lot. He starts to comprehend the attitude of his ex-director and become as difficult or worse than his predecessor. He's a victim of the difficult person and he hates it, only to become the worst copy due to a variance for authority. Chapter 4. The Strength to Handle Difficult People. Now that you've got a fundamental understanding of the different causes and characteristics that govern difficult people, let's now learn to master and then even enjoy such difficulties. Self-discipline to manage. Firstly, if you don't want to cope with difficult people or any issue regarding that, then you're actually wasting your time by studying this book. You'll always be running from them no matter what happens. No space in this world is completely protected from difficult people. You actually don't have any choice but to learn to face them squarely and effectively. Here are a few practical steps to build up the self-discipline to cope with difficult people. Number 1, you have to like people. Everybody has a variety of attitudes. Liking people may be the first sure key to triumph. Staying away from them, particularly the difficult ones, is really a sure route to becoming difficult yourself. Therefore, the first natural factor to complete is to get out there and meet people. Soon you'll meet difficult people. Greet them and warmly accept whatever reaction they provide you with. Never be frustrated, but greet much more of them regularly before you get accustomed to them and until your lot skyrockets to record-breaking heights. They might be rude and cruel, but no one's ever encountered getting shot or wiped out by greeting difficult people. Number 2, smile. Most touching people could be neutralized with a friendly smile. So practice wearing an enjoyable, simple, friendly smile when you're alone so you can carry that on in public. Public loudspeakers and actors study their facial expressions in front of the mirror each day. Politicians and models take some time having a professional photographer just wearing the very best smile that exudes confidence and ambiance. A grin, they are saying, states everything. It doesn't matter how the face looks, a grin always wears warmth and comeliness. A great smile always arrests the temper, even those of difficult people, so always smile. Number 3, be sincere. A grin helps a great deal, but truthfulness gives your smile credibility. Only a smile is dependent on facial muscles flexing. If this alone is involved, the smile becomes abnormal and unnatural. It looks fake, and it can even look creepy. A sincere heart will instantly show if you live a life of honesty and truthfulness. Practice this trait. Continually be sincere and do it every day. Whenever your heart will get used to being sincere, sincerely becomes more natural. Difficult people can easily see through you, and truthfulness melts their hearts, at least if you're not dealing with a complete sociopath. Number 4, listen carefully. Nearly every difficult person wishes to talk even more than they listen. This is actually the primary condition in communication. Difficult people like to speak and wish people would listen to them more often. The bottom line is that that's what they are. Essentially, you can't put two difficult people together and also have them talk. They will just keep interrupting each other or wait their turn to share their own thoughts. It's pretty annoying to listen to, and sadly, I've witnessed this many times in my life. Difficult people avoid one another after they recognize one another. If they're designed to sit lower and listen, they won't stay at home. They'll either fully stand up or steal the scene or simply won't go out. If you're employed by or having a difficult person, or worse, secure with him or her for life, practice being a good listener. You have to discover the secrets of enjoying listening. Many people are not good at this. Many people think there's wisdom in monologues in a discussion. As with business, this only leads to unfairness and silent protests. You may make difficult people happy whenever you may just pay attention to them. Very few can actually do this. As a good listener, even the most challenging people have a tendency to trust you listening to their secrets. They easily confide in you if you listen carefully. Then you definitely start to know them because they reveal who they may be. You get to know them much deeper, and therefore you'll be able to assist them to better on their road to perfection. Be pleasant. This doesn't always mean saying yes to anything difficult people say, but it's much more about saying yes to not argue. Should you not accept the opinions of difficult people, then just listen and send something to your mental bin. One ear out the other, right? As long as it looks like you're listening. Sometimes pretending can be a lifesaver. Delete, it's your right. No, but don't ever argue, let alone when they say you aren't confrontational. What exactly? Nobody dies for that reason, but arguments frequently kill. Nations begin a war due to arguments. Are you getting all of this? Keep in mind that every seed of kindness you plant now will certainly reap a harvest of favor soon. It takes place every time. Belongings are frequently left to pleasant people, not to regressive ones. If you noted for your pleasantness, even the most challenging folks provide you with special favors. Remember, the most challenging individuals are the strivers, the workaholics. They feast upon pressure, hitting their set goals. Oftentimes, they get promoted to positions that confer favors on worthy men. They frequently add more value than the average dude. Number 6, be truthful. Never flatter anyone insincerely, especially difficult people. Insincere flattery always traps its users. Hence, it always is effective just to listen and become agreeable. When difficult people ask about your opinion or inquire if you should accept them, let them know honestly but nicely. Should you agree? Agree. Should you not? Make certain you stress that it's your opinion, not really of a statement of fact. They are probably not going to accept it anyway and cause you to realize how stupid it is. Just listen and become polite, or if at all possible and truthful, quote someone's opinion that concurs with yours. When they mock it, a minimum of it will save you your dignity. You'll always be able to smile more easily. Number 7, praise. Be aware of their worth and accomplishment. Even though you may think differently and also have a different idea about what success really means, appreciate their efforts, share their triumphs and sad moments. At occasions, a grin or a pat on the back of congratulations or sympathy is sufficient and speaks volumes, but never exaggerate it. Practice the steps above each day before you allow it to be your habit. It's easy to have a very healing energy that numerous individuals need and long for, the ability which will launch you to untold successes in whichever endeavor you practice in. The will to change. It is now apparent that the self-discipline to cope with difficult becomes realistic only if you possess the self-discipline to become different. Yes, the very first person to alter is you, simply because any difficult person could be worked with. If you fail or won't change, it just means that you will also be a hard person to deal with. There is a saying that the blind cannot lead another blind people. They both fall into a ditch. And when you compromise to become like a difficult individual, though mildly at this, mildly or else, a difficult individual is still difficult. Consider those who are affected by you, including your immediate family and loved ones. It is absurd that the difficult person might help another difficult person. They won't have this ability to stand one another, remember? And also, you can't avoid difficult people. So the best choice would be to learn about how to approach them. The initial step would be to make certain that you aren't a difficult person yourself. These guidelines to self-discipline can help you identify and eradicate bad attitudes to make sure you aren't always being a difficult person yourself. Number 1, always have respect for others. Remember that people, youthful and old, have their legal rights, beliefs, and views. Without having to be vocal about this, don't consider yourself to ultimately be much better than others. This can eliminate self-conceit, which is often the cause of disrespect and being inconsiderate. Respect government bodies and within their jurisdictions, whether at work, schools, malls, public buses, homes, or countries. Remember that you can't impose your personal standards on others and you've got to adhere to their policy. Number 2, don't compare yourself with other people. You might achieve this in your thoughts, but never really express it. Diverting people mostly do things differently, and you mustn't feel superior together with your methods and elegance. Likewise, don't compare people with others verbally. We all have the tendency to check up on other people, but be sure that it stays to yourself. So don't express it because it can create tension. Number 3, consume a schedule, but never be too rigid to use it. If you are an employer or supervisor, you'll certainly have work schedules and deadlines for employees or subordinates, but never be too harsh about the application. Remember that we're only human. Even machines and computers fail. People err, get tired or ill, and sometimes we get completely exhausted. People require encouragement. Provide them with a workload comparable to that which you pay them. Be nice to them if you are running a business. Don't get too absorbed in hitting goals or quotas. This can make you a horrible person if you get too carried away. There'll always be tomorrow, and tomorrow will yield better results. Learn how to forget about stuff that pressures you. Drop everything and venture out for some time alone. Meditate, review your surroundings, and revel in them. Smile at people. There's more to existence than simply doing all of your business or other things that keeps you stressed out. Enjoy your work. Number 4, enjoy your work, and make individuals' dealings with the same problems feel exactly the same way. Work must support life and never the other way around. When work turns into a burden, life just supports work, which will hurt everyone. Then eventually everyone turns to a difficult person. Every job must become a journey where every turn enables you to be somewhat excited to visit to make some progress. Number 5, never assume that you understand everything. Even though you may always consider that others are sane even when there is something else in charge. Accept the truth that you will find stuff you're absolutely unaware of, regardless of how smart you believe you are. If inside a meeting among peers you're experienced in something and they're not, it's far better to wait for your opinion to be asked for. It's also best to be nicely offer your opinion, but you can achieve this more than when you're discussing specific issues instead of lecturing, unless of course you're a lecturer within the stated meeting. Number 6, never give unrequested advice. Don't give bits of your good advice to individuals who don't request them. Much more to individuals who don't seem like they asked for it, unless of course you carefully associate with them, or else you are asked for the advice. Keep the tips to yourself. You might need them more than the other people do. I have learned that there are some secrets in business or in family life, for example, that are better not to be shared. I discovered some ways to make money in my business, for instance, but when I told someone else about it, he said, "You'd better not do that, or everyone will begin competing in the same market with the same methods and you'll lose your share." Number 7, learn how to admit fault and apologize. It isn't important any longer to find out who's right and who's wrong. If you notice you have hurt an individual, regardless of whether or not you are wrong or right, admit your fault and say sorry. Acknowledging your fault doesn't imply you're wrong. It might mean you stated the best factor in the wrong amount of time in the incorrect place, and that's your fault. It's certainly your fault whenever you enter into a funeral wake and tell the bereaved the dead man would be a crook, or a compulsive liar. Difficult people do this without considering the setting. You might be right, but your rightness will hurt the emotions of the aggrieved family, and that's your fault. But it's different once the truth might be revealed in a court of justice. If you need to testify in court against the dead man and reveal that he is a crook along with a liar, although it may hurt the relatives from the deceased, you have to let them know that this is without faltering. Number 8, love must override rules and guidelines. Good leaders love their supporters and try to seek after their welfare. Many managers just want another and also want to ensure that rules and regulations are being obeyed. This will make most of them difficult people. Rules and guidelines are good, however. They rarely benefit anybody except those who arrange for them. Don't choose matters in a manner that negates the private sections of others, as with selecting an eternal partner, a steady job, or items to buy. Guide them but never dictate them. Number 9, never be unreasonable. Make certain your instructions and needs are within the reach and capacity of others. You might be able to do some things others can't, and you've got to think about this. Keep in mind that you have your limits too. Number 10, never humiliate people. Don't yell at people or scold them or curse at them, especially when other people are in the same room. It's normal to become angry at occasions when there's a legitimate reason, but take care not to turn anger into hate. Once hate takes hold, a difficult individual is being created just like that, and you only have yourself to blame for this. Number 11, get a sense of humor. This will be relevant. It'll keep the sanity intact among the fiercest pressure attacks. Humor keeps your lot high as well as a good heart and a lasting youth. It keeps everything light and simple. Even in the worst case scenario, always find something funny in whatever is going on. Laughter is often the quickest medicine for anything. A sense of humor can alter persons and tight situations quickly and suddenly. Number 12, be careful about your health and diet. It's difficult to take control of your anger when you are sick, particularly with hypertension or heart ailments. So eat well, especially foods that are full of fiber. Avoid an excess amount of fatty and salty foods, unhealthy drinks, fast foods, and foods full of cholesterol. Take natural dietary supplements full of micronutrients and work out regularly. Try a recommended weight. Your lot can cope better with pressures as your health doesn't obstruct your emotions. Get enough sleep to be ready for tomorrow's new pressures. Our health is strongly related to our emotional control. Chapter 5, Examples from Real Life. Difficult individuals are almost impossible to deal with at times. Maybe you have tried to talk sense into them, but it didn't work. It is possible to encourage them to stop being intolerable and also to listen for a while, which moment is vital. You must put in your very best rebuttal and convince these people to lower their defenses or get rid of them forever. Difficult people are real people, of course, so coping with them should be practical, reasonable, and logical. Here are a few attempted and tested methods to capture their attention. A difficult self. A Chinese proverb reads that the very first enemy to defeat many may be ourselves. A Jewish proverb indicates that overcoming ourselves is more important than conquering a town. This can be found in the Bible. And when everybody does not conquer him or herself, states the proverb, he is sort of like a city whose walls have collapsed. Once the self is controlled, any difficult person becomes simple to handle. So be disciplined to disregard the cravings of the ego. Practice the 7 practical steps and also the 12 pointers from the last chapters you read. If you have determined that you're not a difficult person by any means, then you have every right and strength to save those who are still struggling with themselves. A difficult spouse. Unless, of course, you're expecting a divorce, your partner in marriage is really a lifetime partner. It's very easy to think it's too late for a difficult partner to change, but if you give up, this may mean you're a difficult person too. Remarrying can either help you get a better partner or another helpless victim. Typically, stats show that those who remarry often have a higher chance of breaking up again. This is not always true. I have an uncle, for instance, who is a wonderful example of being divorced and happily married to the next partner, but sometimes divorces pile up and you can hear the gossip of second, third, fourth, or even fifth marriage partners. Pressures melt off as a good listener to the compliment. Frequently, pressures tend to be released. Hearing your partner complain when you are okay with it and listen sincerely is going to do wonders for the two of you. Difficulties arise when both sides complain with no concern for the feelings of the partner. Through a heart-to-heart talk cannot pay pending bills and purchase groceries, it may be obvious that you should try to consider the possible effects of it. Clear minds are essential when there isn't money and stress is low, and when in-laws aren't present, or perhaps in any dilemma, it can work miracles. Apart from lending a whole wide open ear, just a little gift won't hurt. Purchase your spouse something or treat her to some refreshing drink or snack. On top of that, heal wounds by passionate lovemaking. Love conquers all, and all the oxytocin, dopamine, and other mental hormones that make people feel good and relieve stress can be increased in the process. Whenever a partner is difficult due to another, the more you should have you should behave the exact opposite of your significant other. Opposites attract. You may still have the marriage relationship by not adding fuel to the fire. You're able to actually pour some water onto it using your calmness and serenity. Difficult parents. Parents are demanding sometimes. Pressure may come from the frustrated ambition they need their kids to satisfy on their behalf. It might be an ambition they've planned for and they couldn't do it themselves. So a parent becomes obsessive with achievement they think their kids should show. It could also be a wish to have their kids one-up the kids in the neighborhood, friend or relative. It could also be work or money-related pressure. This issue can go on to carry on to subsequent generations, creating a vicious cycle. What comes around goes around. Grandma and Grandpa can enjoy a unique role in neutralizing pressure endured by the children, but the best antidote is for them to be a pleasant couple to be around. This could strengthen the personality traits of those children because they grow, or this could frustrate them, leading to these children becoming withdrawn or to themselves. Developing a powerful character is good, and when you are withdrawn, you could have some temporary setbacks. However, any setbacks could be resolved when the child chooses to be different, using their difficult parents because they develop their qualities without detesting them. At the right age, when children develop sense of judgment, they are able to deal positively with difficult parents. Rebelling against parents is only going to result in the parents' worst behavior. Difficult parents see control like first and last measure. So when you fight complications with difficulty, it's hard to resolve, as easy as that. Difficulty can't be countered unless, of course, one party gives in. Someone needs to comply with the negotiated terms that are being discussed. A good example is the conditions that a parent gives a child for receiving a cookie. The said object can be used for manipulation or as a positive reinforcement. How the parent uses it will be different for every person. Whenever your parents begin to see your good attitude despite their unfair treatment, you become a precious jewel to them. They notice you're dependable and reliable. After that, you can start to share your personal dreams and ambitions, or even the pressures you receive in using their instances on their own plays for your personality. No responsible parent can resist a great child. They might achieve this for some time, but they'll surrender it in a matter of time. Make sure to always be caring and polite during your conversations that you have with your parents. Even when they continue to be difficult, stay calm. Always try to bring out the best in them. Difficult kids. If you're a parent experiencing issues with difficult children, this section could be of effective significance. Before coping with your difficult kids, think about where your youngsters got the attitude. Check yourself and your spouse's behavior. Make certain your kids didn't get their attitude from either individuals. In case your children did acquire their behavior from you or your partner, cope with the origin first. Following the attitude continues to be worked within you or perhaps in your partner, then your children can come next. Children may also become difficult by insufficient proper discipline. The mother and father may not have it. However, the difficult attitude could get developed when the parents gave exactly what their kids demand. Quite simply, the kids would become spoiled brats. On the other hand, children may become difficult due to wrong discipline. Harsh and cruel discipline can ruin the children's feelings of kids. These children might then develop selfish resentment toward others. Difficult children are simple to cope with should you start disciplining them early. The right training, while very young, guarantees outstanding results. Children can rarely fight against the system you've ingrained inside them should you start teaching them in the earliest stages. It's like soap. If you squeeze it too tightly, it will pop out of your hand. If you don't hold on to it at all, it slips out and drops on the ground. Either way, the soap will fall. Now compare to raising children. Discipline them so much with so many rules that you can feel that there's no air or freedom, and they will definitely rebel against you in your teenage years. Give them everything they want, and they will demand the most ridiculous things without ever developing a little toughness to be able to cope with disappointments in life. Either way is wrong. The balance needs to be as close to being perfect as you can make it. If you see a hard attitude inside your child, make certain to deal with it immediately. but make certain you're doing it right. Never be cruel or harsh. This can only aggravate the problem, and you'll finish as being a difficult parent. The safest method to start would be to make certain you practice the 7 practical ways on the 12 pointers described earlier here. If you are a gentle, loving, but firm parent, coping with difficult children should be relatively easy. When correcting your children, make sure you clarify firmly what the difficult attitude is. Wrong and dangerous. Show them the discipline and that it is perfect for your very own benefit, which is from love. Again, love conquers all. Make certain the scolding and disciplining is performed privately. Should you humiliate children in public places, then you push these kids into rebellion. Avoid pacifying your children, especially children who throw tantrums, by providing them what they need. The point you'll make if you give in is that the fact that a difficult attitude is rewarded, which leads to difficult children who always get what they want, not necessarily what they need. The proper way to pacify irritated kids would be to assure them of your love, which the discipline you're providing them. This is definitely an act of affection. Embracing or kissing children can help. Youngsters are rewarded more through the tender touch of oldsters, as adults are touched more through the affection of individuals of the same age they love. Many people avoid disciplining their difficult children or just pretend the issue doesn't exist, simply because they don't think this is showing love toward them. It ought to be stressed that simply because some kids become mischievous or naughty does not necessarily mean they're already difficult. Children are inclined to be this way. They're children. They all do it at some point. They test the limits and try out their boundaries. Youngsters are difficult once they demand others to acknowledge they're alone or right. It's one factor for children to consider they're right, but it's quite another to allow them to demand others that they alone are right. Difficult siblings. Difficult siblings can twist your image and also the image of one's own kin. Now, more than anything, make certain you aren't difficult first. I already mentioned that, but I think it's worth mentioning again. Once you are certain of this, you'll be able to start to examine and cope with the difficult brothers and sisters. Difficult brothers and sisters are extremely vulnerable to wrong behavior due to frequent competition. When parents or people exercising authority show favorites, or frequently when there's competition in courtship, brothers and sisters may become difficult, especially to their fellow siblings, and particularly when they succumb to the pressure. Frequently, there are overt and covert pressures combined, working within and without themselves. These combined pressures are often prominent in brother or sister rivalries. They do everything to draw attention to themselves at the cost of the sibling. The first and last type of defense is humbleness. Quit attempting to prove anything with regards to you and being honestly praising your brothers and sisters. Even when things appear to favor you greater than your brothers and sisters, stress your equality all the time. Everyone has good and bad traits. It just so happens to be that the positive characteristics mostly outshine your negatives, and that your time and effort to stay in the limelight appears scheduled. When your brothers and sisters observe that you pose no threat to them, the competition ends and harmony begins to evolve. Pressure subsides markedly and must die when the threat perception is completely ignored. Lot is going to be on an all-time high because everything, even tight situations, will end up tolerable even without any threat or competition. Whenever a challenge occurs, it will be considered a contest of who's likely to solve it first and solve it better any longer, but it's likely to be a let's solve it for the family factor. Difficult relatives. Difficult relatives don't pose a threat because you're prone to discover their whereabouts only in reunions, except if you reside in stated relative's house. In that situation, you are able to use the ways encountering difficult brothers and sisters as described above. The first and last type of defense is humbleness. You may not even establish clearly that you are not a threat to your relatives. Prove that you are a friend, not a foe. Extended relationships can be difficult indeed. I remember all the confrontations with my in-laws before and after I married, and the fact that I always felt that they lacked patience in the emotional bank account. This is normal because actually they never did that much for me, so it's harder for them to catch up. And each time they do something I don't like, it triggers the same disappointment and bitterness. Now, I am not in particularly hateful of my in-laws. In fact, I think they're good people, but my point is that I think that most people find it easier to love their own family, who nurtured and loved them their whole lives, than their new in-laws who haven't done much for them yet. A little shopping around in your relative's backyard may help. Find why they would wound up this way, but perform the study secretly. Don't bypass asking their own families and buddies regarding them. Whenever you discover can help you working out methods to correspond with them. And the reason for them being difficult is because of the pressure from A, parents. They require support in pleasing their parents. B, brothers and sisters. They have to receive honest praises and possess a positive outlook to neutralize sibling rivalry. C, buddies. They need to eliminate their low self-esteem, lift their spirits. D, bosses. Treat them on the weekends. Try to assist them to search for better jobs if they're constantly complaining regarding their work. Give them something valuable like knowledge or contacts. E, themselves. Have patience and show honesty. Act natural. They believe they are fully aware of everything and they will always be right. Difficult friends. Many of us are frequently closer to our friends than our relatives. Difficult relatives aren't anything when compared to difficult friends and acquaintances. If you get up to date with your friends instead of dilly-dallying and dealing out a painstakingly procedure for convincing them that you're a real friend, provide them with a straight up, that's what friends are for. The painful words of friends are superior to the flattery of fools. Let them know the way you feel. If you feel uncomfortable to let them know that, then maybe they aren't really your friends after all. They're just acquaintances. Real friends are a reflection of the way you behave around them. They can even be considered as the alter egos. Acquaintances and individuals you get to know for any lengthy time or period, but that you still sometimes distrust or size up. They're individuals who you are able to do without, although you might care about them a little. Let your friends know something similar to this. I don't like how you made a fool out of me in front of the other women, simply to appear interested in yourself. I think you won't do this again if you realize that I dislike this behavior. The statement above is frank, but able to provide them with another chance. It provides leeway for improvement. This is actually the correct way of coping with difficult friends because it may also help them realize their problems have affected you and that they need to change their attitudes. Difficult classmates. Classmates aren't always your buddies. The majority are acquaintances inside your classroom, nothing more. You share exactly the same rooms, subjects, and teachers. Difficult students frequently wish to prove something. They lack self-esteem and try to show off. By doing this, they require to prove a point. They rarely choose to follow difficult people to accomplish that because those will just get in their way anyway. Difficult classmates frequently pick the silent types who look harmless and unpopular. Popular individuals have support, and difficult people don't desire a mob to turn against them. They're not able to withstand major rejection by multiple individuals. For instance, they frequently attempt to prove something simply because they want admiration. It's all about attention. Just think of the many Facebook addicts in this world nowadays. Everyone is seeking attention. Should you seem like an innocent loner, you're apt to be selected. Introverts, be aware. The best way of coping with difficult classmates would be always avoid them. There can't be 3 students inside a classroom. There can't be 3 chairs. Let others complete the necessary to be the tools on their behalf. The safest seat at school is close to the teacher's table. Live there. It's a total refuge inside a stormy classroom. You're even safer out of the classroom in case your difficult classmates eat in the canteen, eat elsewhere. If their team is facing your team inside your sports class, avoid their path. Play individual games where there's no physical contact involved, like volleyball or ping pong, when there is a net between you. This can provide some safety. Of course, you need to stand up for yourself or another alone or two if it's what the situation requires. This will be the time for you to develop some courage. Face the facts. There isn't any use worrying over difficult classmates who have nothing to do than project themselves because it's the most prominent figures in their peer group. And you ought to know better, really, because you know they need it. They need help. Their egos may be terribly hurt. They're picking on you most likely simply because they see that you're a nice person. They regard you as a general individual having a healthy character who is able to withstand their impossible attitude. Sometimes the only way to fight back is by sarcasm. Don't let them walk all over you, but don't start a fight if you don't have to either. Difficult neighbors. Unless, of course, you intend to leave the area, difficult neighbors can impact not just you, but your family as well, and even your dog. The very best attitude to possess would be to do what you would like as long as it is limited in your territory. When they complain, explain nicely that anything you do that drives them crazy has been completed in your own area. They may not keep it at that or leave you alone after the above-mentioned polite explanation, but a part of you knows your legal rights and can defend them. Now make sure that whatever you do on your own property directly affects only your family. Don't watch television, pay attention to radio stations, or play your music instruments with full blast volume. Make certain the amount fills the room where it ought to be heard. Avoid getting noisy parties into the wee hours in the evenings. Be sure your loud dogs are put in an area where your difficult neighbor won't hear them. We have a neighbor, for example, that lives across the street. Despite the street being almost more than 40 feet wide, he still complains when a visitor's car is parked right across from his driveway because supposedly he has a hard time backing up. Whiny people like this bozo exist all over the world, and you'll have to set boundaries and avoid them if you can. All across the world? Yes, certainly. I have lived in several continents, and on all of them there are considerate and inconsiderate neighbors to be found. Let's say it the other way around. Let's say other people annoy you before you can't tolerate it any longer. I remember living in a duplex in a shady part of town with my spouse when we didn't have much money. The guy next door blasted his music and then forgot about it because he was almost always drunk. We had to knock on his door at 1 a.m. to remind him to turn down his noise. Always try to work it out amongst yourselves. If you really can't get through to them, call the police. They will usually be happy to assist you. Difficult bosses. If bosses started being difficult, your entire life take an abrupt negative twist. Again, the very best antidote is behavioral training. Resigning is really a temporary escape. Should you transfer to a different company, you might end up in the same scenario or worse. You cannot let anyone walk all over you, but at the same time, you shouldn't get defensive over nothing. It's that awkward balance that differs in each situation. Console yourself using the belief that difficult bosses last only a few hours. Relish at the idea of home. Relish at the idea of warm food, tranquility, and more quality sleep. Sometimes work is to be endured, not enjoyed. It's a reality many people face, unfortunately. The best factor to complete would be to maintain positivity while you stay respectful of him or her. There is more to life than dreading your boss. Learn how to enjoy their company. Your boss might have needs they do not know, and you're here to help them face those. It's a noble calling, really, if you think about it. Finally, completely enjoy your weekends by unwinding and doing stuff you like. Don't be a workaholic in your free time unless you're really just doing it for a short period of time to build something up. You'll need the treatment that happy weekends provide and cleanse you from the filth your difficult bosses placed on you 5 days per week. Using this method, you can reemerge fresh and recharged for that coming week. Difficult business partners. A company is often as valuable as life itself. You need to be careful that you work with the right partners in a business. Most partners are close friends, and beginning a company together is frequently a satisfying experience. But money matters can pressure people and alter them. The company partners and close friends you thought you understood can gradually use difficult work associates. This can terribly affect relationships at work and also the business itself. You might have common goals together with your partners, but your opinions can vary and cause a conflict. At occasions, getting standard work procedures might help stabilize things out. At other times, they just won't. Particularly if one of you begins to have fun with the thought of bolting from the partnership to begin another enterprise. When business partners are being difficult, it's good to become open-minded and versatile about things without compromising your morals or values, and also the company's agreed policies. Frequently, variations in opinions don't always mean a genuine conflict exists. You have to try to hear the thoughts of the difficult partners and tell them yours in return. This often results in settlement. Sometimes the minds of the partners may appear more effective and lucrative, however, it is the opposite of the aim of your organization. And regardless of your repeated pleas to preserve your vision, they insist on what they want and threaten to separate using their investments in case you do not surrender. It is now time to examine your partnership and become frank with one another. The organizational goal most likely needs some adjustment or revision. Why don't you agree together to think about modern trends and provide the organization a brand new face? But when the things get out of control and when they want to leave the company, allow them to, but make certain all leads to an optimistic, friendly note. I have personally dealt with many people I hired and had to negotiate contracts and terms regularly. Some ended badly and others led to a compromise where both parties were satisfied with terms. Don't play dirty. Always maintain your integrity. It's not just business. You don't want to steal or find unethical ways to take money from people without giving them anything valuable in return. This may be good for your bank account, but bad for your conscience. In almost any business model, especially one with difficult people, assimilating is essential from each side. Both must cooperate and agree on things. If it is true within the investment aspect, both must be part of the main capital gains. It ought to be exactly the same situation in settling ideas. Difficult co-workers. Difficult personnel is simpler to deal with because they're under company rules. The very best weapon against difficult co-workers will be a friendly attitude toward them as you concentrate on your projects. If you have established yourself as a friendly co-worker to any or all, you will be less likely to face the difficult behavior of such individuals. You're in a tighter situation when the difficult co-personnel are close buddies of the bosses, and if they keep sucking up to gain favors from them. However, if you simply produce excellent and dedicated work within the organization, nobody can give you too much trouble. Your character and work attitude are the best defenses in tighter situations against difficult coworkers who have allies in higher positions. An extreme case, if you're fired because of the conspiracies of difficult coworkers, you must plead the interest of greater government bodies. Seek justice without compromising your character or doing something fishy. Show good attitude whether or not the director himself fires you. Persecuted good individuals will usually find another way to secure their future. You'll want the belief that this is actually the natural order of things. They can only do so much. Some of the jobs I got laid off for were, now that I look back, not worth my time in the long run, and afterwards I found better work with a higher income that I enjoyed doing better. Difficult strangers. Strangers would be the easiest to eliminate in your daily interactions, but be cautious about how you're doing so. Make certain you act firmly but nicely. Use polite words, for example, sorry and excuse me. Never humiliate difficult strangers. When they start mistreating you in very scandalous ways, leave them and disregard the tirade or words they'll send behind you. Smile when you leave. Never look embarrassed or affected. I've dealt with many people myself who were rude, gave me the finger, took out their daily frustrations on an innocent me, and surprised me with some other malicious behavior. But hey, it's society, and even the best societies have their insane characters. Try to avoid them if you have to deal with them. Try to exit the situation without causing things to escalate. Conclusion. Difficult individuals have always been around. You need to learn how to approach them effectively. You must understand how you can recognize them, know why they are the way they are, and how you should deal with them. Enable them to overcome their attitude. Everyone can change, but you have to be careful that they don't take advantage of you. You cannot help another difficult person if you can somehow be classified as one yourself. The blind can't help the blind. If you have some issues you need to take care of first, then that's the first step. Only then can you mean something to someone else. In order to handle difficult people, you'll want a great character that's gentle, meek, patient, tolerant, but firm inside so you don't become difficult yourself while you try to cope with individuals who are around you. Then you must understand fundamental concepts and methods on how to approach them, as indicated in this book. It's useless to prevent coping with difficult people. It'll only prove that you're just like them because difficult people avoid one another. They never congregate. Each difficult person wants to be the star and steal the show. They are out there, so you better learn to interact with them. But they're everywhere. You can't possibly avoid difficult people all of your existence. So the best choice would be to learn to handle them correctly. Whenever a problem remains unsolved, odds are it'll worsen or multiply. Difficult people left unwatched will end up being your worst nightmare. In this way, coping with them is really a calling of some sort. We should assist them in having the ability to help individuals that are victimized by them, and therefore we have also to aid ourselves. And then there's the probability of getting difficult individuals that are part of your loved ones. Your partner, children, brother or sister, or parents might be difficult, men and women, without you being conscious of it. You need to face the facts and cope with it before things get out of control. Training your kids is vital in stopping difficult individuals from emerging. It frequently starts in early childhood. Kids left privately are potential candidates, especially individuals whose every wish is satisfied by doting adults, individuals who are able to escape from proper discipline, and children who are mistreated and deprived from the attention of their parents. It's early childhood that the substantial molding happens to create mature individuals. Finally, difficult individuals are people. Don't hate or dislike them, they're victims. All people have at some point been such victims. The number one prescription medication is love. Other supplements for their healing processes are understanding, persistence, and tolerance. You're the hope of difficult people in your area. Don't fail them. They could be relying on you.